Welcome to day 2 of the Australian Floral Art Association Convention. Glasses off so you don't get the glare. This morning's session is going to present to us 2 more of the state demonstrations. The first one from New South Wales Floral Art Association as the current hosts of the convention. Following that, there will be one from the Western Australia Floral Art Association as the hosts of next year's convention. And just after that, before we finish the session, we will hear from West Australian Floral Art Association President Penny Bruning, who will invite you all and tell you all about the wonderful things that are going to happen next year at the convention. This morning, we're going to see the demonstration from the New South Wales Floral Art Association representative, Mary Fairley-Cunningham. Now, Mary is currently the Sydney Royal Show champion. And for those of you who are not familiar with that, it used to be called the Easter Show, the Royal Easter Show in Sydney. This is, in terms of floral art, it is a 12 to 14 day competition, 6 or 7 sessions, probably between 5 and 7 designs in every session. So to become the champion over that 12-day period, Mary would have benched upwards of between 30 and 40 designs. An incredible achievement for anyone who wants to become part of the tragic competitor group that go to the Royal Easter Show every year. Mary is also a floristry teacher and, as I said, a dedicated floral art competitor. I will now ask Shalane to share the video of Mary's demonstration.
Welcome to my corner of New South Wales. I'm coming to you from a lovely spring day in Sydney, and I've just given you a panoramic view of my backyard. So thank you so much to the Floral Art Association of New South Wales for inviting me to demonstrate today. I hope that you have been inspired by lots of demonstrations so far, and I'm here to give you another taste of inspiration with the designs that I'm going to do. When I was first asked to do this demonstration, it was quite an exciting adventure that I was going to partake on, and then I went, oh, okay, so there's no parameters, there's no guidelines, so what do I give you, the people of the convention? So I looked at the title of the convention, The New Visions, and I tried to let that title speak to me as much as possible, and went to the Oxford Dictionary, which a lot of you floral artists do when you are given a brief to come up with a competition title. So the Oxford English Dictionary came up with the phrase, the ability to think or plan for the future with imagination and wisdom. So on the back of that vision, I then thought about new, and what was new and what was coming through in an innovative, in styling, in flowers. So I've got 3 concepts for you today. The first concept of a new vision is sundry items. So when I went to the local sundry suppliers based in Sydney, and of course we've been in lockdown for a while, so going online and finding what was available coming through, I was actually inspired by 2 containers. This is a smaller one, and it's made of wood, very organic. So on the fact that when we look at new sundry items, a lot of florists, a lot of floral designers are looking at sustainability. So thinking about how we could actually look at our products to reuse them, repurpose them. So I was really taken by these new wooden containers. They've actually got a plastic line in them, and which was very useful. You could put plants in them, you could actually put water in them, which is what I'm going to do a bit later, but also the rawness of the wood on the outside. You could spray them, you could paint them, you could put lots of, you could create lots of your own personal styling on these containers. And I like the fact that they were elevated. So this was a smaller one. I then chose to use the larger one. So with this, I then came on to my secondary topic, was how we were going to look at new ideas of how we would take the floristry, innovative styling, imagination, and creativity to the new next level. So looking at drilling little holes. So I drilled a little hole in the side of the container after measuring it out. I then used 22 gauge wire and fed the wire through the hole and then tied it off. I made the chicken wire and bound the wire together to make a structure that came up from the lip of the container. The wood was relatively easy to drill into, and it didn't affect the plastic liner on the outside. So once I'd actually achieved that, I'm thinking that I can take some sticks, I can weave products through this chicken wire, I can fold it over, I can do an amazing amount of variety of sundry and stability with the chicken wire that I've achieved. So on my daily walk around the suburbs, which I'm allowed to do, I then came across these beautiful architectural sticks just coming out of winter. Most of the sticks haven't actually come and budded up into green yet. So one of my neighbours had this growing. It's a crepe myrtle. What I love about it is the fact that it's relatively straight and relatively thin in its manner, in its form. And so what I then proceeded to do was then feed it through the chicken wire that I made, and that would actually sit quite straight and actually be very, very secure and create a lovely linear line to my design that I wanted to create. So feeding the crepe myrtle sticks through the chicken wire, I then continued to either put some sticks on the outside or some sticks on the inside, but weaved the crepe myrtle sticks through the structure, and that became quite an interesting form in itself. By actually taking the sticks on the outside, I've broken the edge of the container and created a little bit more width, even though the container is actually quite wide in its mouth. I just also wanted to create that lovely linear look onto the side. So after threading and weaving a little bit more, I've then come up with quite a strong focus on one side with the crepe myrtle branches, and then using quite asymmetrically the form that I wanted to create was to have the sticks to the one side, but also to have this entrance for the floral material on the other. You can see that the crepe myrtle sticks are covering the majority of the chicken wire, and if any of the sticks needed any more support, I used little lengths of paper covered wire to secure any of the sticks that needed to be on the outside of the lovely wooden box, the wooden container. I mentioned the fact that we've actually got the sticks in the container and leaving a lovely entrance over to the outside. I mentioned that I was looking at 3 new concepts to take my new visions. We've mentioned the container as number 1 concept. We've mentioned the sundries, the container being new and a new product. I'm now going to look at the new season. We've come out of winter. We're in the middle of this beautiful, glorious spring day. So I'm looking at the new flowers that are in season. So with that, I'm going to bring out my Australiana, a new spring season. So I've got some beautiful kangaroo paw, and this is called Golden Velvet, this variety. We have a wonderful supplier in Sydney. East Coast Wildflowers has an amazing array of Australiana and South African natives, and he's my go-to supplier for all of this beautiful spring Australiana product that's coming through. And the vibrant yellow is it's indicative of spring in a lot of countries, and so yellow and this touch of orange are my go-to spring colors. The next product that I'm going to show you is Isopogon, which is also in a vibrant yellow, which it's got some beautiful natural foliage to the stem, and it's very similar in form to the top of the Crepe Myrtle. It's got some beautiful nutty type form into the center. Once the flower is finished, it's got this beautiful nut that forms, which is very sculptural and architectural in its vista. So fairly monochromatic in my color selection today, but we've also got that beautiful touch of reddy orange that's coming through on the kangaroo paw, but also on the beautiful Leucadendron, a South African native which is actually grown in New South Wales, and you can see the repetition of that beautiful red being picked up on the tips of the Leucadendron and on the underside of the florets with the kangaroo paw, and in the center of the Isopogon. More delicate blooms to show you, and this is a Waitzia. It looks a little bit like a paper daisy. It feels a soft, but not as papery as a paper daisy, but it's a wonderful bright vibrancy, and I'm hoping that will actually pop out of the pop out from where I'm standing and really come towards you as a beautiful product, and that's going to be used in the design today. I've also got some Swan River Myrtle, and this smells absolutely divine, and it's got this beautiful movement and arching form, which is going to really help bring the design out and through. Okay, so now I've actually got my beautiful design. I've now got to also think about how I'm going to secure all of the flowers into the wooden container. And I've got a Kenzen. What old is new? So even though we're looking at moving forward and new visions, we've also got to think about what we have on our wonderful backpack of floristry designers and floral artists, and what we can actually use. So the Kenzen's going to be the weight at the base. I'm also going to repeat the chicken wire and just another roll of chicken wire that I've actually created. I'm going to feed that in between the sticks, and this is going to be my anchor, my support for the stems instead of floral foam. So looking at new products, new ways of using material, so not using floral foam as much. A lot of the designers nowadays are moving away from the floral foam and experimenting with new ways to hold your flowers in a much looser and natural positioning. So flowers need water, so filling up the base with everything. It's always good to experiment. So I've had one of these containers sit with water in for a couple of hours to see if there was any leaks in the plastic, and there wasn't. But it's always worthwhile doing that experiment just in case there's a small leak. So I've also on my travels came across some vine that I dried out in a wreath form, so it's got this beautiful circular motion, and just bringing that through on the outside of the container, just to break the edge of the container and to create another area where I could feed the flowers through and they can be supported. Just feeding that through. It's a wonderful day. I hope you're enjoying all of the movement in the trees behind me. It really is a fabulous spring day here in Sydney. Okay, now with each step of this design, I'm really hoping that this inspires you as the beautiful form and the shape starts to take place. So even without any flowers in, I do sometimes like the sculptural and architectural feel of a design before I actually put flowers in. So I'm going to start with my kangaroo paw to get some height into the design. And this wonderful vibrant yellow. I'm going to feed that through the top of the design into and through the sticks so that it actually is nice and secure. Showing all these beautiful blooms to start off with. I'm now going to work my way with them. So, turning it around, you can see that just by adding that colour into the top area of those branches means that your eyes are drawn right up to the top of the design where all the sticks are, and just feeding it through, just using the chicken wire that I've created, using the sticks and just feeding the stems down into that lower area, into the water source. So just adding that final height. You can never go too high, just moving things out of the way so that you can really see that beautiful kangaroo paw being quite stately and proud up the top. Now, my next product, as I mentioned before, is the isopogon. I whittle back the bark at the bottom because it is a woody stem, and just to help the uptake of water into that lower stem. I didn't have any extra foliage in here. I'm just using this wonderful greenery on the isopogon to be my foliage through the design. So with the height, I can go quite wide with my lower stems, just to create some width. And to really balance out the height of the design. Then introducing the Leucadendron again. I'm going to again leave these beautiful leaves on the stem so that that can really help add depth to the design. going to the Sydney flower markets this morning was absolutely a delight. It was one of those getting up early in the morning. I haven't done that for a while. We've always and getting out to the market was fabulous. So many beautiful spring blooms out. Using a knife means I can get a really sharp 45-degree angle on these stems, which means that in the fresh water, the stems are going to soak up all of that beautiful fresh water and really hydrate. They have been drinking now for the last 6 or 7 hours, but just to recut them because it is a bit windy today. Isn't it coming along fantastically? You can see the colours really reflecting in all the materials together. And so what we've got is your eyes travel through the different textures, through the different colours, but all harmonising together. This wonderful Swan River myrtle it's got such an arching form. I'm just going to use it at this full length to create some beautiful movement and rhythm down at the base of the design. Aren't these paper daisies amazing? They are absolutely stunning, and some of the largest heads on paper daisies I've ever seen. So East Coast Wildflowers really did New South Wales floral art the best. We got the best of the best today. All your oohs and your ahs, but I'm sure you're saying ooh and ah to your screens right now, because some of these spring products that we get here in Sydney are just a stunning and a delight to work with, and really repeat the same sort of form and colour that the Waitonia has. So that beautiful natural base that we have in the wooden container really lends itself to some of these more Australiana products. Some beautiful mini Banksias. Now, when I chose this as a product, I wanted that round form, but also to bring down some of that gold down to the base and just bring that product to the other side of the stick feature. By grouping these together, they will actually create a stronger, bold form down at the base of the sticks to just bring that colour all the way around and all the way through. So when this design is looked at, it can be looked at 3/4 round rather than just straight on. A little bit more texture just underneath that sort of focal dominant area. That's right, beautiful. Well, these products are absolutely stunning. Got a bit of a rogue paper daisy here, so we can tuck them down to the side here. So wonderful to be able to work with all of these colours in a special time of the year. So having a look where I put that beautiful lime paper daisy, just tucking it underneath these other two vibrant, larger headed, similar colour paper daisies, but just coming in there, just a little bit of depth. And the wonderful billy buttons can actually cope with not being in the water, but can just be elevated up through the sticks. That breeze is lovely today. Well, this is all very new, doing demonstrations at home on our own little video cameras, but it's a great way of sharing and inspiring everybody. We've all had to become a little bit more tech savvy over the last couple of months with not being able to go out and Zooming with our friends and our family. So we've all had to become very tech savvy. So, which is great. Always learning. So wonderful textural forms that we have in this design. A feast for your eyes. It's always quite fun to put a bachelor button or billy button upside down. So what we can do here is I've got some short bits of paper covered wire and attach that to the back of the design, so that little bit of colour comes through. Perhaps I can position this next to a mirror. I can position so you can catch the beautiful button, bachelor button on the flip side, but also bringing your eye back through to create that wonderful depth that we like to see in all of the designs. So it's a three-dimensional form. There we go. Hiding behind my sticks, as it were. Just taking that off. Okay, so just catching a glimpse of the billy buttons at the back, turning around. Doesn't that make you feel alive and vibrant? That's beautiful yellow. And we're just going back to where I saw this, the new concepts and the three concepts. So new visions on containers and sundries. We've got more sustainability of products coming through for florists and florist choicing. We've got new beautiful flowers that have come through as they're coming into their fresh growing and seasonality, and they're all predominantly Australiana. And then we've also got the new designer abilities with the chicken wire coming through, and creating your own chicken wire and a little bit more inspirational ideas of some designer techniques. I hope you enjoyed me showing you a little bit of Sydney and the new season of spring, and thank you very much.
Mary, I know that we've all been quite inspired and turned to jealousy by the products that she had there. Such a wonderful array of Australian native and South African plant material. I will now invite Gail Robinson from the New South Wales Floral Art Association Committee to thank Mary on our behalf.
Thank you, Kim. Hello, Mary. Can everyone hear me? On behalf of the New South Wales Floral Art Association and members of floral art associations worldwide, we extend a thank you to you for sharing your talents and showing us innovative techniques, floral styling, and floral trends. What is particular value to us as conference participants is gaining an insight into how you explore the possibilities, concepts, and techniques before you begin your designs. We appreciate your expertise, and you are an inspiration to all floral designers and students. Thank you.
We'll move on now to our final state demonstration, and this one's brought to us by the West Australian Floral Art Society. And I know that there are some of them listening today. So those of you who are overseas and think that you've had to get up early, even our own people in this country have had to get up early. So for the Western Australians, it's 6:30 in the morning and they're here with us. We do have a video that we're going to show, and their demonstrator representing them today is Jean Shine. Jean is an international award-winning designer and demonstrator, and many of you will have seen that at this convention. She also won the best use of colour for one of her designs. So let's now have a look at Jean's demonstration.
Hello flower friends from all over Australia and from overseas. Congratulations to New South Wales Floral Art Society for having the courage to continue on with this convention, changing it from an actual convention to a virtual, aptly named New Visions. Thank you for inviting WA to perform this demonstration today, and it's my pleasure to do so. This is my pre-made piece of pine that's I've got the structure already created underneath. You can see I've got some wires coming out from the front, which is going to be for a little bit of stacking. And if I turn it around, give you the back view, you can see the extension on the back as well. Okay. We'll also be adding in the sphere. I'm going to pop the sphere in here, which I've already covered in some moss, and we're going to be using the blue gum, the silver dollar blue gum, which will be coming onto these wires, and then these beautiful anthuriums will help to complete the picture right across there, along with some reeds, these beautiful reeds. The tools that we'll be using today to make this horizontal design is the drill with the bits, the florist scissors, the wire cutters, the pliers and the glue gun. The materials that we'll be using for the design is some weathered pine wood, which I've picked up from out in the bush, and a small piece that goes with it. Also, we're using the stub wire to do the structure, and there's 8 stub wires here, and we're using the real wire for the binding, and also some florist tape and the bullion wire. Okay, I'll show you now how we actually did the structure of the legs of the undercarriage under the pine. So I started off with the 50 centimetre length of stub wires, cut them in half, and rather than cutting these ones in half, I've pre-cut them. So they're cut in half, so you have the two sets. To start off these legs, I like to, once you've got the cut, this is only a shorter version, but because I've got the others there, but I like to tape the end to make sure that the wires are perfectly straight. We want no crossing wires at all. We want them to be nice and straight. So that tape helps with that. Then I like to start this at the end and then just wind around. It doesn't have to be that neat on the end at this stage for this particular thing, because it's going to go up inside the pine and you're not even going to see it. So we'll just be wiring around, binding this up. I'll do a bit, and then I find it's easiest then for me, I just push it back down again and just bind it. This needs to be nice and neatly done. So it is just do a few winds and then push it back down. And this is the close-up. Okay, so we're still binding. I've nearly done, I've pre-measured, and it's about 6 centimetres. The actual legs need to be about 6 centimetres. So we just push that back, and so, oops. And if you don't get it straight, you need to just go back and do it again. And then I'll take off this tape that I've put on for holding it nice and straight. Just take the tape off. And this part here is making the feet part from the legs. So we've got 8 stub wires. We're going to keep 2 together and we're going to pull them. I usually like to ease them a little bit, holding that quite firm, keeping them together, and bring the 2 down. Whoops. They're quite tough. And then I use these pliers and bring them at right angles. Bring them all down at right angles. And then these. I've got it at right angles. I'll put it on the table just to push it down and keep your sets of 2s together. And then I have one is the underneath carriage, and these 2 are the two feet or the toes that come before. And then I measure this to there, which is about 6 centimetres. Take the pliers, the wire cutters. Well, can't do 2 together. 1, and then another one. Oops, sorry, I forgot I have to do the camera. And the same on the other side. 6 centimetres. Now these wires is what I use with the extension. These wires are what we use for further bits on the bit of pine. Okay, so that's that stage there. Okay, this is the one that I've just cut, and so I've done a quick fast forward here, and this is the one that we've now got, and I'll show you that's one end, one big long toe there that's been bound, and this one keeping the 2 together. And so now I'm just going to show you with this, and this particular one now, when you come to the end, unlike this end, you didn't have to be quite so fussy, but the end of this needs to be nice and neat. We come to the end and we just wind around so that it's nice and neat on the end of the wire. Bring it back together and just keep them close together, and just do it slowly so that it doesn't cross over, and it just winds, and you have that nice strong, gives you a nice strong foot for you, and then you can just bring that back against it. Going. Just keep wiring. Keep wiring. You find that these structures are useful for so many things. Once you get the hang of making a structure like this, you can put them into so many different bits of wood or bamboo or whatever you like to use. It's kind of, it takes a while. It's quite taxing on your hands and on your fingers and on your thumbs, and you need to take your time with doing it. I mean, if you've got the time, that is. It's one thing when you're retired, you can have the time to spend making structures. Most of the structures that I make would probably take me a week, because I do a bit and then I rest my hands and go and do some gardening or something that's not quite so taxing on the body. See, I'm covering that quite nicely now, and we just keep going through. So you can see this is the finished article, finished winding up to the top, to the beginning of those where the leg goes into the pine. You can see that, and you can see the area that I haven't yet wound. I'll be joining the 2 together in a moment. So these are the 2 structures that I've made separately. We're going to bring them together to make the strong carriage that goes underneath the pine. Okay, so now I'm going to join these 2 together to make the nice strong carriage to go underneath the pine log. So just going to bind a little bit at the end just to get started. Then I put the 2 together. All fingers and thumbs when you do stuff like this. Bring the 2 together. Oh, I like to use this tape. It's a really good trick, and you can see why, because it's going to actually put them together for me. I'll start the tape at the end. Bit of fingers and thumbs there. And then I'm just going to bring the tape right the way through. Bring your tape through, because it will just makes it so much easier on the binding. That will do. You can go right through to the end if you like. But just for today, I'm just going to do that much. And then we're going to continue with this winding. I wind a bit more on the end until I get to where the other two join. So this carriage in between, of course, there's four wires, whereas both this end and these ends have just got two. But this is nice and strong. And then winding around, keeping it nice and close together. I won't wind it all because I'm sure you get the gist of that. Winding along makes them nice and strong. And when you get to the end here, you just go around nice and tidy, nice and neat, and cut it off and push it up into the little space that's in there, and it's all finished off. There's no need to glue that, just cut it off. Okay. So now that we've done the wire carriage for underneath, I will show you how I attached it to the pine log. So I'll just flip it over. Oops. And you can sort of see from there where I've got the holes drilled here. Actually made a mistake there, which we do sometimes make mistakes, and my measuring wasn't quite right. But you just try and central that so that the weight looks right when it's actually standing up and finished. So I drilled down there about a centimetre. You've got to hold the pine, because as you can see, this is a very weathered pine. It's got lots of cracks in it. You've got to hold the pine very firmly. And a tip that I can tell you is that I used a small bit first, which is this one. I used a small bit first and drilled the first hole, and then I graduated up to another size, and then if I had to make it a bit bigger, I would then go to the third size. That way you split less of the pine, and it needs to be a little bit bigger than the actual legs, because you've got to put the hot glue in. By the time you put the hot glue in, it takes up more space within the hole. And once that's glued in, and before you actually glue it in, it's a good idea to put them in, push the legs into the pine, and to make sure that it's going to stand nice and straight before you glue it. But the gluing, you do need the gluing in the end. And then I drilled some holes here as well for this extension, and there, and on this little piece of wood. So before I decided where to put, before I decided where to drill the holes, I actually held the extension up to see how it looked on the actual main piece of pine. And I also put some wires at the end here. This is to hold the sphere, which is the water source for the design. And in front here, there's a couple of wires there. I made the wires at right angles, drilled the holes, put a little bit of glue on the end of the wire, and then just pushed them in. And that's all in preparation now for me to do a stacking here, and the sphere can come on the end. Okay, so now we're going to, in preparation for beginning this design now, I've got this sphere here, which I've purchased, and I've put the moss on, and I've pinned it in place. I've got a little bit of wire on it, but I'm just going to show you how I did the wire, which is quite easy really, but you need to start off, just pop it in front of the thing so we can see. Just start it off with a little twist so that that's up there, and then I will just bind it around. And the binding can be a bit decorative, but the moss is so thick and luscious that you're not going to see it, which is okay. Always makes a mess on the white cloth, we'll come around, and then that is where I'm going to finish. Just going to come, just wanted to show you how I actually did that, and then I'm just going to finish off here with a little twist on the thing, and get my scissors and just trim that off. Just get the scissors. Okay, now I've got a nice sphere here. I'm going to place it onto these there. Now it's the fun time. We'll place the flowers in. So this is, as you can see, that's the front. I'm going to have the gum on here. We'll swing it back around. And first of all, I'm going to place the reeds. These are swamp reeds, which we actually grow here in the Benja swamp, which is not far from my place. And I do have a clump myself in the garden now in my pond. They grow to about 1.5 metres high, and they can get up to as much as a centimetre in diameter. So they're quite a lovely reed to use if you can ever get hold of them. They grow in all states of Australia and also in New Zealand. Oops. They're lovely to use as a screen in other ways, rather than the way I'm using them now, just as their fresh form. But as a screen to tatami together, they're also beautiful to use, and they go a lovely browny colour. And as they change, they're delightful in all their forms, all the colours, green right through to the brown. So I'm just going to add, that just accentuates my horizontal line here. It gives nice contrast to the wood. So then I'm just going to place these anthuriums in. The anthuriums are a beautiful contrast of form. These white anthuriums are so lovely. Just going to put one at the top here as well. Sort of giving myself a bit of an asymmetrical balance to the design here by more weight on one end. Then I'm going to use this other anthurium, and that's just going to give us a bit of dynamic tension coming through. Just got to, where I did the wiring, we just have to be careful. I just have to put a few holes in with the scissors to get past the actual wire. Whoops, there we are, found a space. I'll just show you that. To give us a nice strong, I would like to be honest, I would like to have had this anthurium a little bit longer, but we don't always get what we want when we're designing. So it's still quite nice, and it still gives you this lovely extended length here with the reeds. So my next thing I'm going to add is the gum leaves. So this is the eucalyptus gum. It's actually grown, it's not a natural West Australian plant, obviously it is Australian. It grows in the eastern states. When I've taken it off the branch, I've actually just pulled them off, but I've kept them together in their little things. I'm just going to place them on here. So I'll show you in a moment what I'm actually doing. Placing them on. This is stacking, the stacking method. So this tree, pre-organised those. Beautiful blue-green colour these ones are. And the tree grows down on a spare block. We originally planted it as a shade tree, but I did know that it was going to be the silver dollar, so I cheated a bit. But it's very nice tree. It's grown huge. I have to get the chainsaw to it now to cut it right down so that I can keep getting nice fresh leaves, because for some reason these eucalyptus seem to get a disease quite easily. Just show you what I'm doing. I'm just doing that little stacking. I'm putting two together. Actually, I put points on the top of those wires when I was doing them so that they'd pierce it much more easily. So the stacking, and it's quite good having the two. Oops, it might be overzealous. I think that one's too big. Just show you from the front. Having the two, when they come down, they kind of just move that little bit. Gives you that little bit of a frill. So they're not quite. So they're a little bit more interesting. Pushing them down. The stacking is quite a nice technique to do in designing. We're very good at manipulating the plant material, even though we love the way it grows as well, but we're always on the lookout when we're driving around and find something we can use in some way. I'm going to nip the tops of those wires off when I've actually feel like I've got enough on there. Just bending over. Put them on. I think it just gives a nice little finish to the front of this design. Oops. There we go. I'm just going to nip the top. I think there's enough there now. I actually wanted them only to come, merely to be in the front. So, with the nice strong wire cutters, just simply trim the top off, and they'll just sit there. Just put another one over the top. Oops. Oh. A little bit of wire showing through is fine, but wire everywhere else. Just pick up my bits over there. I think that's fine. I could put another reed in maybe. I did find that these reeds go in better if we put a little wire in the end, because they're quite soft for going into the oasis. And this wire gives them a little bit of strength, and there's little segments all the way through, so it grabs onto it quite nicely. I think I'll just put a fourth one in. There we go. So that's my final design of the horizontal log with the extension. So with this design, we've got good dominance. We've got the dominance with the line being a very strong horizontal line. The log is also dominant, a dominant element in the design. We have nice contrast of forms, contrast of colour, and we have really good space within the design from below here, space created within here, and then we have really nice harmony and rhythm throughout the design. Thank you. Okay, thank you to my granddaughter Hannah for doing this video. You've been very patient with me, and you've certainly, your quality of work I'm very thrilled with. So thank you, Hannah. It's been a pleasure working on this demonstration, and I wish you all the best to everybody and hope that you enjoy the rest of this seminar. And thank you again.
Thank you to Jean for teaching us yet again. I don't think I can get out of my mind, though, the image of that elegant woman outside with a chainsaw attacking a gum tree. Jean always, every demonstration I've seen, provides us not just with a wonderful design, but techniques that we can understand and follow, and always reminds us about the principles and elements of design. Thank you for that. And I will end the session now. And those of you who are on the next session, it will be open in just a short few minutes time. Thank you all for attending, and we'll see you again soon.